All right. So thank you for joining me for today's webinar on the checklist for the spring term. Over the next 20 or so minutes, I'll be walking you through a brief overview of the checklist for the spring term. If you happen to have any questions throughout my session, please feel free to chat those in the Q&A box located at the bottom center of Zoom, and I'll be sure to reserve some time at the end to address those questions. So with that said, I'm going to make sure my screen is shared appropriately. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to start here in my dashboard. The first couple of items I want to walk you through are to close up for that fall semester section, and then we'll get to that spring setup. So I'm going to start by navigating to our tools tab here. And I'm going to start by archiving our gradebook. So by archiving your gradebook, you can just, like I said, select tools, archive gradebook. You want to give it a description. You could put fall 2021 or the date. So today's date is the 4th, and you can select archive gradebook. And what this will do is it will take a screenshot of all your records and grades to date and house it safe and sound here in Hawks. What's also really nice about archiving your gradebook is that it's not only saved here within Hawks, but you can also access it here and export it if you want to save it locally to your computer or to your LMS system. Either way, really accessible and easy to do. So I recommend you just take that archive. Once you're done archiving that gradebook, you can always view that archive by going to Tools and View Archive Gradebook. So first and foremost, I like to do that at the end of each term. And like I said, have that screenshot of all records and grades available for you here, safe and sound in Hawks. The second item of business I like to do when it comes to semester wrap up is I like to break any LMS links between Hawks and your LMS system. So if you use our integration tool with any of your LMSs, Canvas, Blackboard, D2L Brightspace, Moodle, etc., you will want to make sure you break those links prior to that spring semester. So you can just do that by going to Tools, Reset Gradebook. There's a list here, but you really want to just navigate right here to the center here, remove section LMS associations, if any. And you can select either all of your sections or just the ones that are appropriate that still have that integration link. And you can just click, Reset Gradebook, and it will say okay, and that will just break those LMS links that integrate Hawks with your LMS system. So once those links are broken, and we do recommend you breaking them just to prevent any sort of old grades possibly syncing over mistakenly to any new section. So it is a good practice. So now that we have archived our gradebook and broken those LMS links, now we can get ready and start setting up for the spring semester. So I'm going to start that by setting up our sections, by setting up our course shell. So you can do that again by navigating to that Tools tab and select Manage Sections. All of my sections will appear here, past and present. So I can create a new section by selecting Add New Section here, and I can give my section a name, maybe MAT 102 Spring 2022. We do recommend best practice also including the term in your section name, just for easy use from your students and you, just keeping track, organizational purposes. If you have taught a class or a section during the fall term and want to copy over all of those templates and assignments, you can very easily do that by just using our course copy tool right here on the right-hand side of my screen. I can just select from that drop down which sections, templates, and assignments I want to have copied over from the fall to the spring. If I do select one of those sections to copy over, it will ask me if I want to copy over the basic settings as well. And those basic settings encompass the meeting start times, start and end dates, all that kind of basic logistics. So I typically will put no because they will not match the fall section basic logistics to the spring basic logistics. But you will see here that those lesson due dates templates and other templates will copy over. I just have to put in the appropriate spring logistics here on the left. So I can put in my section meeting times as well as start and end dates. We do recommend putting in a start date for a few reasons here. By checking off the boxes below the start date, you're not going to be accepting any lessons or assignments prior to that start date. So that's really important. Same thing goes for that section end date. By inputting a section end date and selecting those check boxes below it, you're not going to be accepting assignments after that date. So essentially by putting your start and end dates, you're bookmarking the period of time by which you are going to allow students to submit lessons or assignments, etc. The last item of business over here is just we by default put the time of day lessons are due at 11:59 p.m. You can absolutely adjust that according to the needs of your class. If you want, for example, time of day lessons to be due for your class to be at your specific class time, you can easily adjust that. But I'm just going to go ahead and save these changes now that I've created my new section, as well as copied over those templates from the fall to the spring. So I'm going to save those changes. The last thing I do want to do here while we're in our managed sections is I would like to hide any old sections from my gradebook as well as from students. So you can do that very easily by selecting those fall sections here, that checkbox next to each fall section. And I can just hide those sections. Now, when I select hide sections, this little pop-up will come up asking me if I want to hide these sections from the gradebook, which will also hide from students as well. So you can select hide from gradebook. This will also automatically hide from students as well. And as you can see here, these two sections, these fall sections, are not visible to students, nor are they visible within this gradebook. So this is the only place we'll really see these old sections appear. And that just makes it really easy and cleaner to navigate throughout your gradebook. So I definitely recommend that as well. If you should ever want to show those sections or make them reappear throughout the gradebook, very easy. It's the same process of just checking off the sections you would like to be made visible and select show sections. So, but now that we have copied over those templates and assignments from fall to spring in our new MAT 102 section, the only things you really need to do is make sure that those lessons, those due dates, and any sort of web test that's assigned to that section, those due dates as well are updated to reflect those spring semester dates. So you can do that by going to the assignments tab and selecting lesson due dates. Okay, so as you can see here, only my spring sections are visible because I hid those other sections as well. So this MAT 102 section, I copied that fall template over. So I need to make sure that I take a copy of this template and adjust this template to reflect spring dates. So I can do that by managing this template. So I can simply select manage by template. I can scroll through and look for that fall, let's see here, lessons fall 21 template, lessons due date template that I had here. I can copy selected items and my copy will automatically be made, see right here, copy 1 of lessons fall 2021. To make any adjustments, I can just click directly into this template here and my fall lessons and due dates will appear. I first want to rename this template because again, I am adjusting it to reflect the spring 22 semester. So I can select rename. And once I select rename, I can then adjust the name, maybe spring 22 lessons. That's my new lessons due date template for the spring. Now, instead of spot checking each, or rather, instead of individually updating each lesson, I can also shift multiple due dates using our multiple due dates tool, so that all of those due dates will shift from fall to spring dates. So I can do that by selecting the shift multiple due dates. There's a really easy 3-step process. Step 1, I select the very first due date. And if I just click back here, it will show me that my first due date for this fall term was August 23rd. And then step 2 is to input the new due date that I would like to reflect for the spring. So maybe I'll make it due my first day, January 17th. And in order to finish this process, you can see here every due date on or after August 23rd will be moved 146 days. I can just press go and they'll all automatically be shifted, reflecting those new spring due dates. We do recommend spot checking. You can spot check any lesson by clicking that calendar icon and just adjusting any date that you might need. Especially with different spring break dates that might not match up with that fall kind of spacing. We definitely, like I said, recommend to just make sure that you spot check that all the dates fall on the specific dates that you would like for them to fall, or days of the week for that matter. And if that looks good to you, you can just make sure you save those changes. It does take a minute to load. As you can see from the bottom of my screen, it's waiting right here, so it's just thinking, but now it's loaded. And once it's loaded, we can select copy to another section. So this is where we're going to make sure that this new spring 22 lessons template is applied to our new section here. So I'm going to select that, copy to another section, and it's just taking a second here. And I can apply that to that spring 102, to the MAT 102 spring 2022 section. And I'm going to save those changes and I'm good to go. See, it's added to my new section. So now that we have made sure that our lesson due dates have been adjusted and applied to our new spring section, we also want to make sure that if we have any web tests that we carried over from the fall to the spring, also have those due dates adjusted to reflect those spring dates. So I can do that again in my assignments tab and locating web tests. So when I select web tests, all of my web tests will appear here, but I want to view by section to see which web tests are assigned to my 102 spring 22 section. And I can do that by selecting view by section and selecting this little arrow here. I can see that I have test 1 from fall 2021 and fall 2022 test 2 already assigned to this spring section. So that was carried over from the fall to the spring. And to adjust those settings for the due dates, or start and end dates rather, I can just select that little checkbox next to my section. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see this general settings option. So by selecting that, I will be able to adjust these due dates for these web tests so that they will reflect appropriate spring dates. Now, if I wanted to make a change in bulk, you can see right here, make changes in bulk. I could just select that show button and I can adjust those dates to be due however I want. So let's just put start date and end date, maybe sometime in May, and a start time, as well as an end time. And I can make visible to students. I can input a password if I should like to. I can adjust the amount of time students have to take these tests. I can allow more than one attempt of each of these tests if I wanted to. And if I should, then I can select what type of grading method I would like, if I wanted to accept the average, the best, the first, the last, etc. I can record that in the gradebook as well as give it an assignment group here. So I'm going to give it tests. So again, we can just apply those by selecting that little checkbox. And as you can see here, those bulk changes were made to my test 1 and test 2. If I wanted to make any specific changes to a specific test, I can absolutely, adjust that here. Maybe I want this one due a little sooner than May. Maybe I'll make it April, for example. We also do have a late penalty on a new feature this upcoming semester that recently deployed, which is really exciting. You just want to make sure you allow late submissions as well as select which penalty you would like to incur for these specific web tests. If all is well, then you can just save your changes. And once that loads, those settings will be applied to those tests. As you can see, changes have saved successfully, and we'll be pretty good to go here. Yeah, that's really all you have to do in order to make sure that you're copying over those sections and templates from that fall section to the spring. You just want to make sure you readjust those due dates to reflect those spring semester dates. And you can always start from scratch as well, just by going to lesson due dates. For example, this section here doesn't have a lesson due date. I could just simply click in and start fresh. Same thing with the web tests. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and see if there are any questions in the Q&A. Please don't hesitate to ask any. I'm happy to address them. Any questions that I can address? Well, I hope that this was helpful information to help prepare you for the new term. Please don't hesitate to reach out to your TSR if you have any other questions or any other, additional inquiries that can help you, get set up for the spring semester. And have a fabulous rest of your day.